am so excited today to get the chance to do a quick interview with one of my favorite clients. Don't tell my other clients I said that. um, and that is Christina Trucks. And Christina, I'm gonna let you introduce yourself in a second, but I just wanted to say that it's been so much fun to get to know you over the years. We first met, I believe it was in Kentucky, maybe
Mhm.
2021. And
That
I
was my
had no
first.
idea that you were
Yeah.
so fast. You're not in my age group. We'll just say you're younger, and you're in the 35 to 39 age group at the time, I believe.
At that time, yeah.
And yeah, and I feel like had I known that you were going to split your 200 through the 400 so well, I would have tried to go with you. And by the time I got to three-quarters of the way around, I started to run out of gas from all the travel, all the, my training wasn't there and all that stuff, all the things. But and you beat me by I think a second or two. And
Barely, yeah, yeah.
yeah, and I
And
was
then
just like,
I
who is this girl?
I ran that 200 so fast because of my lack of experience in doing 200s, let alone I'd never done a 200 indoor before, and so the night before, I was looking up, like, how to run a 200 indoor, and
Oh my God.
it definitely wasn't I wasn't supposed to go all out in my first 200, but I think it was the nerves, and
Yeah,
s yes, I split a really fast 200 and then, slowed down, but
yeah.
yeah.
But that was so much fun, and I was like, "Who she's so awesome." Like, I wish I had known so I could have just, like, paid more attention. But you did
Yeah,
pull me through on the second half, and I loved that. And so,
yeah.
yeah, and so I you are now in the age 40 age group, and we connected again this year. I mean, we've always been in touch, but we've connected again this year because you had a goal of breaking the American record. And I also had that goal and didn't quite achieve it, which, I did become world champion. I was very excited about that. Um, but that would have been actually slightly faster than my best college outdoor time, I believe. And you know what? Who knows? Anything's possible. I'm 48, and who knows? Maybe I can run a 56 again. I don't know.
Yeah.
But you did break it, and I couldn't think of anyone better to break it. Oh my gosh, I was so excited for you, and I was so excited to be part of your journey, and of course honored to that you asked me to be part of that journey. So I guess I just wanted to chat today about. You can tell your background story if you'd like of how you got to be running the
Sure.
400 at age 40.
Yeah.
And then maybe just like three key pieces of your puzzle. That's how my coach used to put it is, you have to have all the pieces of the puzzle. And obviously for you, metabolics was one of them. So maybe that, and then maybe two other pieces of the puzzle. I know there's more than three, but that
There's a ton. Yeah, there's a ton
oh,
that
there's
goes in.
so many. Or you could just go into all the pieces of the puzzle that we can
Yeah,
fit into
yeah. Well,
our quick little chat. But so I guess maybe how did you come to be running the 400 meters at age 40?
right. I never thought that I'd run the 400 at all. To this day, it's a love-hate relationship. But well, training for it is. But then after you do it and after you finish, you're like, yeah, I just did that, and you feel like Superwoman. But I had a coach. Previously, I had a coach, and I started out running Masters Track, like right when I turned 35. I had met Joy Upshaw, who introduced me into Masters Track, which I knew nothing about. I'd never ran track in college like everybody else, and I was doing Spartan races and triathlons and half Ironmans just to compete because I've always been very competitive. Grew up playing soccer and softball, and so then I had this coach. A good friend of mine, Adjoel, we actually went back and ran at a junior college. We used 2 years because we had never used eligibility before. And so we're like, oh, let's just go out there. We're going to run the one and the two and just
That's
have fun.
so cool that you went back to college to run
Yeah.
at in your late
Yeah.
30s. That's so
Yeah.
cool.
It was
And
something
and
where
and
safety.
Adjoa too.
Yeah. We were out there
She's
training
my
with
age
Joy.
group. Yeah, she's like
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
She just turned 45. So,
yeah.
um, we were out there training and at the junior college, and then the track coach kind of came up, and Joyce, and they all started chatting and asked, so you've never used any eligibility before? And I was like, no. I got pregnant with my son at 19 and finished college, but never, used any athletics eligibility. And so then little light bulbs went off in their head and they kind of reeled Agile and I in. And I was like, I'll do it if you do it. And if you do it, I do it. And so we did it. And so we ran the 1 and the 2 the first year. And I think it was maybe after I'd never done it, but then another master's friend, Ellie, had asked me to come out to that Kentucky meet where I met you.
Oh,
And
yeah. Mhm.
I was like, okay, well, I've never traveled and ran before, so I can't not come all this way and not do all of everything. So I
Mhm.
did the 60, the 200, and the 400. And so that was actually my first time running the 400, let alone indoor, but
Oh
doing
my
the whole
gosh, that's so crazy.
yeah. And so then I came back and I told my coach, I think it was like a 59 at that time, and I
Yeah.
was just happy to go sub 60.
Oh, okay, so you went 59, I went 60 flat.
Yeah, that might have been it. And so then I told him, he was like, like a another light bulb in his head. It was like, we're gonna make you a 400 runner. And I was like, oh, I don't know about that. So it's kind of
That's the problem with the 400 is if you do too well at it, then your coaches are like, "Oh, okay.
yeah. So I was
Are
like,
you doing it?"
okay. I mean, I've seen the 400 people training, and that doesn't look like anything I want to do. But then, so that's kind of a lot of people say it, like the 400 finds you.
Yes,
And so
true.
I think that's what happened. I wasn't searching to go be a 400 runner. I was just fine doing half a lap as my max.
Mhm.
And yeah, I came back and told him my time. He's like, all right, well, this next season, like, let's focus on that. And so kind of did that and been a 400 runner ever since. So yeah,
Yeah. It
that's kind of
that
how yeah, like I said, the
well,
400 kind of found me. And I was just winging it. And he was like, for indoor, for your a 59 for indoor, that's a really good time. And I didn't know, I had no race modeling, no plan. I didn't know what I was doing. Like I said, I came out really fast on that first 200.
yeah, I was
And
like, "Whoa." I'm usually the first one in the
yeah,
cut. What's happening here?
yeah. So yeah, that's how I started the 400. And then that was what, 3 or 4 years ago, 3 years ago now. 3 or 4. What was it that
Yeah,
Kentucky was like
20
20
I think it was 2021 because it was after
after COVID, all the
COVID, but still it was
yeah.
very COVID-y, you know?
Yeah.
It was like,
So like
yeah,
yeah, like 3
like,
years
I think,
ago.
like, people still wanted masks on and stuff like that,
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
like
So
that,
about
but,
about 3
yeah.
years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah,
3 years ago. That's
and
still
then
so
since
cool.
then that's been yeah, my main focus. And I love the 4x4. The 4x4 is my
Best
favorite.
event ever.
Yes, it is. The
Oh my
4x4.
gosh, I can't wait to run a 4x4 with you
I
one day.
know,
It's
yes.
gonna happen.
I've actually been asking you for a couple of years, and then you started doing your multis, so I totally get it.
I'm
But
returning to
yes,
400 training now, so
good, good,
I'm gonna
good.
double at World Championships, the pentathlon and the 400. Mhm. Yeah,
That takes some strength.
dude, pentathlon is like nothing compared to the decathlon. So
Yeah.
to
Oh
me,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like to me,
I
it's
bet.
like field day at an elementary school. It's like, oh,
Yeah,
pentathlon, it'll be a good warm up, you
yeah.
know?
Compared to that, yeah, I'm sure. So yeah, that's how and since then I've been running the 400 as my main event, and
That's so exciting.
I love
And
it now.
so what
So
are some of the pieces of the puzzle that you put together when you established that you wanted to break the record. And
yeah,
well, you've been consistently getting faster in the past 3 years, which is
yeah,
something that I like to highlight is yeah, eventually we slow down with age, but there you can get faster as you age. I mean, my clients are definitely proof of that. And so you've gotten faster. And I think it's really neat too that you didn't run in college. Like, I
yeah,
did run in college, but I wasn't a 51 second to 54-second
mhm,
runner, so I basically have come, well, my indoor time was faster than college.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then
yeah,
my outdoor time I've come within, half a second of, so it's
yeah.
like I'm maxing out my genetic potential as I'm
Right.
aging. And like I
Yeah,
said,
imagine if I always say, imagine if you knew now,
yes,
then what you did now, I'm sure you would have been running those 51s or
it's
52s.
possible. It's
Yeah,
possible. Yeah.
yeah. So,
But the ladies who we do compete against are those,
right.
we both compete against
Lots.
athletes that
Mhm,
ran 50 seconds, 51 seconds in the 400. And
definitely.
then now they've, declined that much, but we're not declining. We're getting better. So I think that's
Right.
what's really exciting about our journey. So yeah,
Yeah.
share with me some of the pieces of the puzzle that you put together when you decided, that's one thing, right? You
Yeah.
decided that you're going to break the record. There was
Yeah.
like no question
Sure.
about
Well,
it,
how
as
that
I remember when you
yeah,
called.
well, how that came apart. Yeah, well, a lot of when I was, training with the younger athletes, the junior college 18, 19-year-olds, they're like, "Why are you doing this? Who would do this just for fun, train for the 400?" And I told them, I said, "Well, the American record for outdoor is this, and the American record for indoor is this, and I'll be turning 40 by the time this all wraps up. And so why not get some training under my belt and then figure out how to, get those records?" And so what I found, as you know, nutrition is key. Right now, I've been pretty lax for the past since World's wrapped up, and
Yeah,
I
you're
feel it though.
off
I
season.
feel it though. Yeah, it's off season, but I feel the difference, and I feel groggy and lethargic, and all that stuff that I don't want to be feeling. But I know, I'll get back into the swing of things. But in season, I'm really strict on what I eat, and the family is all eating this for dinner, and I'm eating this, and I think nutrition is a big key, just because it gets me through the day, because I'm still a mom of three and I still run a business, and there's all these other things. We're not just athletes. And so the
Right.
nutrition gets me through the day, then it gets me through my workout. And then there's sometimes where I have a lift and then I'm going to the track later, or vice versa.
Mhm.
And so, the timing of what I'm eating, the how much protein here, how many carbs
Yeah.
here, how much fats here, all of that comes into play. Nutrition is a huge part of it. And I think when I first started running masters, or when I ran, in 21, when I ran that 59, I wasn't big on, I did a lot of supplements. And so I was doing protein bars and fit crunch bars and all the, sugar alcohols, things like that. It was protein from probably stuff that's, obviously not as good as protein from a steak, or protein from chicken, or protein from seafood, and things like that. So I've stopped doing a lot of that. And now I do real food. Now I do real food and fruits and vegetables and things like that. So nutrition is probably the top of it, because I wouldn't get through the workouts that I get through without the nutrition piece of it.
And just
And
like
then,
your training, I think people have to realize that you have to plan you plan your workouts, and a strategy of how you're going to get better. But you do have to also plan your nutrition. And I think you especially learned that when I helped you structure everything out, and we have to make sure you're getting enough protein, right?
mhm,
And
yeah,
like you said, sourced from the best places so that you
right.
feel optimal and you don't feel lethargic and you have that energy. Because yeah, we are professional athletes, but we're also professional mothers and business
Mhm,
owners and everything
yeah,
else. Like, whereas an elite Olympian, that's their job, and that's pretty much usually all they do. I mean, some of them obviously have to have jobs too, which is tragic.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I think it's really you did a great job in sticking to your program just like you would stick to a workout program, and you did a great job of incorporating those, like the animal proteins that you needed and that sort of thing.
Right. Yeah, yeah. Um, but besides that, I just think, I think programming and structure to the whole year, it's really important for me. It's really important. When I first wrapped up the junior college, I was like, well, what do I do now? Because I've always been so used to, somebody telling me what to do at what time on this day for the last couple of years. And then when that wrapped up, I had North Carolina, not this past outdoor, but the one before. That was my first nationals ever. And I didn't know how to get from when I peaked in May with the junior college, like, what do I do from now to July? And so I think another big piece of it is just having that structure and that
Right?
planning.
The periodization.
Yes, yeah, that's a word. My husband would at least probably over there thinking that right now.
Yeah,
But
well,
yes,
but you have to realize that so many people don't know about periodization. It blows my
right.
mind. Like I've obviously learned from my mentor because I'm a certified strength coach, and so Charles Poliquin, so we talked about periodization a lot. And but like I tell people, even if you're recreationally sprinting, you need to periodize it as if you're peaking for a competition. Like you don't have to compete, but you need those peaks and lows and volume and intensity. You need the flow of not having intensity all
Yeah.
year, but also having a training program that's going to sustain you, that you don't burn out and you don't get injured. So that's where the periodization comes from.
Yep, exactly. That both on the track and in the weight room. both. Yeah.
Both, yes.
So that was, yeah, that was key for me. I think that was a big part of it. And
Right,
then
so you peaked at the perfect time.
yeah, it did.
Yeah.
It all was planned out perfect. So I think that um really, because I at nationals, yeah, I definitely didn't run times that I ran at Worlds. And then I was kind of nervous. I was like, oh no, am I gonna be okay at Worlds? Because this is how I performed at nationals. And then at Worlds, I'm doing 3 times as many races. And so actually this Worlds, was my first time ever doing rounds. Because in the 35
Oh,
age,
yeah, you gotta train for rounds too. It's a
yeah.
totally different ball game.
So in
Yeah.
the 35 age group, the last couple nationals, I've done 2 outdoor and 1 indoor now.
Yeah,
They
national does not, they have less rounds, and a
they
lot of
just go,
times it rolls
yeah.
over because there's not
Most
enough
of my out
people.
of all of those, I've done rounds of the 100, the 100, I think at Greensboro, we had semis and finals. But besides that, the 200s, the 400, everything goes straight to. And then even at the junior college, they're all 1 day meets. So I was really nervous for this world. It's like, oh my goodness, I don't not know how.
But let's share with everybody that you kicked ass and you
I
won. You got
I
the
did
gold medal.
I did pretty
And not
well.
only do you have the American record, but you're a world champion as
Yeah,
well.
that was exciting. Because and that was another thing I just never thought was possible. Or we get into the flow of life, and then now we're in our 20s and our 30s, and then I was like, wow, I really could. It's possible to be a world champ at 40 years old,
I
and
can
that was
relate to that feeling.
yeah, that's never something. How old were you when you got
Well,
yours?
it's because you have this, I totally feel what you're just saying, like in my heart, because it's like you, after, in your 20s, you're just like raising, you're doing your thing, you're building your business or whatever, your
Yep.
career, and then you're raising your kids usually in your 30s, your children, and like you think that's it. You're like, your life is centered around those things. And then you start to get a little bit of breathing room, I think, around this age.
Yeah.
And I mean, not much, because especially with, you have 3 kids. I have three
Yeah.
kids. You have three
3
kids.
teenagers.
Yeah, and twins, I think, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, that's a handful. Um,
Yeah.
but so yeah, we get thinking like we can't, for some reason, that we can't be this superhero. And then somebody plants a little seed, and that's where I come in. I'm trying to plant all the seeds in everyone. I'm trying to say, listen, you can be your superhero optimal self. Like whatever that may be for you, it might be not be track, it might be cycling, it might be a field event, I don't know, like it could be
Yeah.
whatever it is. Like yes, as you age you can be your superhero self, and I think you're a shining example of that, because I definitely felt that when you said that. Like yeah, I felt like that was my life and that was it. And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden my daughter asked me, can you help me train, I want to run track in college. And I said, okay, let's go out on the track. And then I was like, you know what, if I keep working hard and I keep consistently showing up, who knows? I could be world champion,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
very exciting accomplishment when that happens. And
Yeah.
I think that more people need to know that they can be their superhero optimal self. So
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And I'm thankful for Masters Track, even for having this opportunity to be able to do this. Because yes, I didn't ever think that would be a title that would, I was like, I kind of feel like I want to tear up right now saying it. And that was not expected. But yeah, I just never thought in a million years that, my name would be, if you go and Google something,
yeah, you're the
Christina.
best in the world.
Yeah.
Sometimes you
Yes.
just walk around and you're like randomly and you're like, wow, I
Yeah.
I was the best in the world. I'm the best in the
Yeah.
world. Or like with your record, I'm the
Yeah.
best, in history. I'm the
Yeah.
best in history. Like sometimes it just hits you in random times, I think, right? And
That's
you're just
exactly
like,
what
wow,
it
I
is.
did that. Nobody else did that. I did that.
Yes, I'll say it to my kids. I'm like, your mom is the fastest 40-year-old to run a whole lap
Yeah, ever
American
in history.
history.
In
But I just,
history.
yes, and I
Yeah.
just come back home and they know it. And they all, I know they're really proud of me. But at home, I always joke around. I'm like, I'm just mom. I'm just their
Yeah,
taxi cab driver when
I
I get
know.
home. But yeah, but it is
But
really cool.
but we are so appreciative of you just being yourself and being you and having these goals, because you've just shown to everyone what's possible,
Yeah.
so like
And that's what
it
I
is
do.
a big
I really
deal.
hope to inspire. Just I have friends that have reached out since, and they're like, "Hey, I just want to be able to run a lap, and it doesn't have to be under 60 seconds. I just want to be able to run a lap again." And I'm
Mhm.
like, it's possible just to start with baby steps. I remember, I would say, so I kind of started running 5 years when I hit 35. That's when I met Joy. But probably if we go back 7 years ago, 7 or 8 years ago, I couldn't do the monkey bars. I couldn't do a pull up. And now I can do, not right this second, but when I'm at peak shape, I can do 15 pull ups.
Mhm.
But
Amazing.
we're talking about just 7, 8 short years ago, I couldn't at the park swing on monkey bars with my kids and let alone do 15
Yeah, well,
pull-ups.
my first 400 time with my daughter was a minute and 30 seconds.
Right.
Blazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Blazing minute and 30 seconds.
Yeah. Right.
Hardest 400 of my life.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so I just think it's great, and we say it all the time, like our bodies will do whatever we train them to do.
Mhm.
And we're never too old. And if because I try to reel my mom in still, I'm like, Mom,
Yeah,
I show her pictures of, a lot of the masters athletes. I'm like, they didn't start till they were like 60, or they didn't start till
exactly.
65. And maybe one
Yeah,
day I'll get
so we're in the same boat where we're trying to inspire others. And one thing that you said that earlier, that I want to touch on is that you were doing Spartan races and triathlons and things like that. And I just did a podcast with someone yesterday who had no idea that masters even existed. And
yep,
she's in her 40s, and she was like basically like, oh, I just ran marathons because I just thought that's all there was marathons and 5Ks, like that sort of thing. Like I
yeah,
didn't know that. She's like, because it's not as accessible. And I said, it is accessible. Actually,
yeah,
if you just go to usatf.org, you can find the association in your area, and then, reach out to the clubs. And I
mhm,
was telling everyone, like, Masters community is very welcoming. So they're
mhm,
not going to make fun of you for never sprinting before. They're going to
yes,
say, "Hey, let me help you. Like,
yep,
let's come on
exactly.
in and let me show you the best form and the best
Yep.
drills and that sort of thing, so that you don't injure yourself and you do well." And so I'm really, obviously a huge advocate of sprinting for aging and
Mhm.
longevity.
Yeah, but no, that's the same thing. I didn't know about Masters Track either until by fluke I met Joy, and then look how that, it's all just transpired. Um, the Masters Track.
Yeah.
So after I went to Greensboro, I was like, oh my god. For one, it was so nice. That was my first nationals, outdoor nationals, and it was nice just because first everybody there just talks about track, and everybody's nutrition and fitness, and it's all everybody's has this common goal. But then also, I explained to people, I was like, there's people who, yeah, are being world champs, and then there's people out there who are just enjoying staying healthy and
Yeah.
active and fit and enjoying life outside. And so
Yeah.
it's
It's
everything
all
in between.
levels.
And so then the masters, the whole, I made that post after I finished the nationals, my first one, just how welcoming the whole community is, and just yeah, everybody's out there encouraging each other, and it's not, nobody's making fun, and it's just
No, nobody's making fun of
yeah,
it. Yeah.
encouraging and motivating and
Yeah.
inspiring and all that. So
Yeah, and we're all in the same boat because, there's a lot of moms, there's a lot of
yeah,
families, there's like,
yeah,
I mean, all the obviously the older athletes, their grandparents, they got, we all have a lot of stuff going
yeah,
on. So,
yeah,
it's they all share experiences, and that's what's
yeah.
really nice. So I'm really on a mission to get women, especially, to sign up for the World Championships in Florida, the indoor worlds, because Jerry, the head of USATF Masters, told me that it's usually 70% men that sign up for Worlds. And
Wow.
so I'm on a mission to especially get that women number
Yeah, get
raised
that
and
ratio
get some
closer.
women
Yeah,
out there, because it's in the USA for the first
yeah,
time in decades. So,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, I know I can count on you to help me get that message
Oh
out.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I do it every time I meet somebody. Just at the track, we had went to Nashville, uh, just like 2 weeks before we left to Worlds, and I met somebody, and he was training out there. Just like walk up to him, like, "Hey, what are you training for?" And I'm always promoting it though. I'm always saying, "Well, do you know what?" Because that's how I found out. Just by fluke, somebody said, "Do you know what Masters Track is?" And I wouldn't be here without that conversation. So when I see people, random people that I know, they're master's age, I walk to them and I say, "What are you training for?" And then we just start chatting about masters, and I tell them about Florida. And same thing out here locally. The day I got on the plane to go to Worlds, I was doing my last little shakeout in the morning at 9 o'clock, and my flight was at 1. And somebody was out there, a group of ladies. And I was like, hey, what are you guys training for? And then I come to find out the lady Amy, she was actually the Boston Marathon age group winner. And I was like,
Wow.
did you know there's masters track and you can actually, run? I know probably not indoor, marathon runners probably aren't too fond of
Well,
indoor.
they can do 10K or something like that,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
5K.
And so I was
I
telling
think they
her,
have those for open meets and things like
yeah.
that.
But
I'm
see,
not sure what the maximum, I think they have 10K in
but
Masters.
she didn't know about it. She didn't know about
No,
the
that's
opportunity
crazy.
for
If she was
masters
doing
track.
Boston, she didn't
Yeah.
know about it.
Yes. And
Yeah.
so I just said, well, told her a little bit about it, share it with all your friends. And I'll Instagram, what's your Instagram? And then I'll Instagram them the USATF or the
Yes.
masters
Okay.
site. And then they get a chance to poke around. But yeah, I'm the same way. I love promoting it because I just think about that's how I found
It
it.
makes us so happy, right?
Yeah, it
It's so
does.
much fun.
Like,
Sprinting especially is so much
yeah.
fun. I know she's a distance runner, but like I find that the distance runners, when they stop doing marathons or they transfer to indoor, not indoor, but transfer to track,
Mhm.
massive track, they tend to start to go down in distance. So they
Yeah.
kind of get
Yeah.
a little bit more into the sprint zone,
Mhm.
even if
Yeah.
it's 800 meters or something like that.
Yep.
But
Mhm. Yep.
yeah.
So.
What about training, the piece of the puzzle for training? I know that you made some training adjustments. You got a great new coach this year, and I think you made the move for, yeah, just tell us a little bit about, because the 400 meters is a really special event that encompasses all three energy systems. You have to
Yeah.
have your ATP, creatine, phosphate explosive phase. You've got to have the lactate phase. Um, and for those, I'd like to announce every time I talk about lactate, that lactate is fuel and lactic acid is not what causes fatigue. They think it's
Yeah.
ions, so let's stop saying lactic acid causes fatigue. Just a little PSA there. So lactate zone and then a little bit of endurance. So
Mhm.
I think that a great coach caters to the athlete individually, just like strength training or any other type of sport, but you got to cater to that athlete individually because like some 400-meter runners are 800, 400, and some are
Right.
200, 400. So like there's a girl I used to race all the time, probably race her again next year, but she's really good at, she beats me in the 200 every time, but I would beat her in the 400 every time
Mhm.
because she would go out a lot faster than me in the 200.
Right.
And so you have to work those energy systems differently and, train them differently. So I guess like if you had an 800-meter runner, they get better when you incorporate more speed work. So what did
Right.
your coach do with you this year to help you get to that 56?
That's actually what I did is we focus on speed. And
So
so
you developed your speed more than your endurance.
yeah, well I started working with him after indoor season, after indoor Chicago. It was the first indoor season I've ever had. And so I was like, okay, well, what do I do now?
So
I was
like
like,
6 months ago-ish?
yeah, I was like, yeah. So from April to August was 5 months. And so I had no clue I was like, do I start over? I think that's how we started talking in Chicago. And I was like, well, yeah, I have no clue what to do now.
Oh, yeah, because you have to do the double peak.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
have no clue how to peak and taper and do all that myself.
Yeah.
So we started chatting and I was like, do I start over or do I pick up and just keep going? I had no clue. And so yes, I
It's a
got it.
good question for all masters athletes.
Yeah, and yes, and so then and then on top of that, I had to, semi peak for nationals and then try and
Oh,
then
right.
for worlds.
So
So
July, Nationals is
yeah,
July, and then Worlds
yeah,
is in August.
yeah.
So
So they're about maybe 4-ish weeks apart.
yeah,
Maybe not even
it was
that. Maybe
very challenging actually.
yes. And so I was like, I have no clue what to do. And so then, yes, we started working together. And I think at the beginning of the season in the fall, I built a really strong foundation base. And so I had actually come out
Okay,
indoor.
so let's explain just real quick because I know what that means, but a strong foundation base means that you're doing a little bit more, I'm guessing, a little more volume, right?
Mhm.
With less rest period,
Yes.
in order to establish your fitness.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and sometimes the repetitive nature of those volume workouts strengthens your small tendons and muscles because it's
Mhm.
like a repetitive thing, not as repetitive as running a marathon, of course,
Right.
which reinforce negative habits, in my
Right.
opinion. But you're reinforcing positive habits with like form and breathing and things like that. Is that Right.
Yes. Well, what it was, I did a lot of 5-4-3s,
Okay.
a lot of 5-4-3s, but also still in the fall strength training. So I'm still lifting really heavy,
Mhm.
doing 5-4-3s, and then just a lot of plyos and circuit
It's a
training.
great foundation.
Yeah. So then I feel like I had like like injury proof hammies, like everything was really
Oh,
strong.
I love that feeling. I know
Yeah.
what you
A lot
mean.
of hills. I did a lot of hills too. And
I
so,
For me, I don't feel particularly light during that period because I'm in that period right now. And I am about usually 5 pounds heavier out of race season because of all the
yes,
lifting.
that's me too, right
Yeah,
now. Yeah.
yeah,
My training partner, we were just talking about that a couple of
yeah.
minutes ago. And then, we're also eating more too because our bodies, we're with the strength training and lifting and then high volume running. It's just, we're burning a
It
lot and we're
demands
hungry.
more. Yeah.
Yeah. So fall, I was really strong actually, and I opened up my opening meet where are we? In December last year, with a 57:11 and a 25:11
And was this indoor?
indoor. Yeah,
Yeah, which
indoor.
is for everybody out there, indoor is slower than outdoor
Yes,
because you have
yeah,
to go around the tight curve. So you're always
yeah,
going to be a couple seconds
yeah.
slower.
And
Yeah.
so I opened up with those times, and I was like, oh my goodness, like I don't know how to keep this. And so I kind of just winged it, yes, from January to indoor season. And then my numbers kind of just stayed the same, kind of even went up a tiny bit, just a tiny bit. And so then that's when I decided, I was like, I need a coach to just organize this for me. Organize
Yeah.
this, tell me what to do, on what days to do it.
Well, it's the same thing when you reached out to me. You were like, "This is what I do. Where can I improve?"
Yes,
And I was
exactly.
like, "Well, you could
100%.
eat more
Yep.
red meat and,
Yep.
drop this supplement, take this one, that sort of thing." So I feel like it's the same. And
Exactly.
I think that's a champion mentality
Yeah.
where you ask questions. Like
Yep.
I think a lot of times
Where
people
can
are
I,
afraid
where
to
can I,
ask questions, and you
the
need to ask
little
questions,
tweaks.
right?
Yep.
And go to
Exactly.
who's most successful in the field.
Yeah.
Who
I
is
agree.
the world champion? Who
Mhm.
is the best in the world? And I think that's
Done
what
it.
you
Yeah.
also find your coach too. Yeah.
Exactly. Mhm.
So you add the questions for them.
Yes, and so, yeah, because I actually started working with both you guys right after indoor nationals. Yeah, same time. And so then since I had that really, I'm circling back around. So since I had that really strong base, he said, okay, we need to work on your speed. So let's get your speed down. You have the ability to get around. Obviously, if in December you're running a 57:11 indoor, and then when I met him, I had just finished my 400 um, indoor in Chicago, and I think I ran because I was just off the indoor American record. I ran a 57:48. But in December, when I ran that 57:11, I was 39 and
Oh
9 months.
no, what's the
I was
record?
39 and 9 months. But then I was like, oh, okay, if I opened up with that, I'm going to get this no problem when I turn 40. Didn't
Yeah.
quite happen. So I missed
What is
it.
it? 57 what?
57:40 flat, 57:40.
Oh my gosh.
And at
So
indoor
close.
nationals, I ran a
That's frustrating.
57:48.
Oh my God, that's
And I
frustrating.
was like, oh my goodness.
That
But
means
what I
you have
know
to wait till
now,
next year to do it now?
this year, yeah, it's gonna happen. It's
Yeah,
gonna happen
okay.
for sure.
Well,
So
I still have a little shot at the indoor record is 59 too for my age group, set by
oh
Emma.
yeah,
My
oh
client
yeah,
Emma, and she's cheering for me to break it. But
yeah, yeah.
I have 59 too, and then although you'll come just right
That's
behind me and
helpful.
break it again, which will be fine.
Yeah. I have somebody like that too. She's the 30 women's 35 now. I was like, I need to hurry up and break this record because I know she's gonna break it when she gets here. So I want to hold it for at least a couple of years.
That's
Um,
great. Okay, so
so
you're just off the record, and then you hired your coach.
yes. And so then he said, we have to get your speed down. And I said, okay, yes, we do. Because I had the energy and the stamina and the endurance to get around the track.
Yeah.
But he's like, if we can get your 200 time down, then that's gonna, carry you to your 400 time. And he actually, I want to say for the Virgin Islands, he ran in the Olympics back in his day.
Yeah.
So yes, he worked a lot on getting my speed down, and
And
we did a
things
lot.
that just so everybody understands, because they're going to be like, how did she get her speed down? Um,
Yeah,
it's probably you're going to do a little more max effort, higher percentages for shorter distances with
yep,
longer rest periods,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Because you're tapping that
100%.
energy
Yes,
particularly.
yes.
Yeah.
So we did
But
shorter.
without neglecting the endurance part of it.
Yes. Yeah. So the key, I mean, obviously we have other workouts during the week, but then the key was to start off on Mondays. We were doing shorter distances, and I'm talking under 100 meters. shorter distances, longer rest. And so every rep was,
Quality.
just about max effort. Yeah. And then, yeah, that really helped get my speed down because it's getting
That's
my
awesome.
over and
And
my feet
honestly,
getting faster.
periodization wise, that I find that that model works great. Some
Yeah.
people have different models, but I find that having the model where you have that strong, longer foundation, strong foundation with strength training and the larger volume, and then going basically they call it long to short. I
Hmm.
really find that that works well, although it's some coaches are just doing short all year round, and I'm just going to say, like, I see more injuries that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm still a fan of the long to
We have a
short
good, yep,
within
we have a
reason.
good mix.
Yeah, and I think still keeping within, I call it within like like touching distance of your pacing is
Hmm.
important, even if it's in your flats in the fall.
Yep.
So
Yep.
staying close to your race model pacing within
Yep.
some reps on one of the days, I think is still important.
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
love to
That's,
get my
we definitely do that.
my
A lot
spike
of it would
to
be,
start
yeah, the
like
next
once
one.
a week, and then yeah.
Yeah, later in the week would be okay, we're doing maybe like a 220 or 230, but at 400 pace. So yeah, or if it was a little bit faster at 200 pace, and then just timing through the 200. But yeah, it was a lot shorter distances. And then the 25-0 that I ran at Worlds in the finals for second, I got silver in that. That was like the fastest time I had run in a couple of years. I remember this because him and I just had this conversation. I said, yeah, I haven't got down to it. I ran 124, a 24.92 is my PR that I ran a couple years ago, but that was when I ran it before my
Before
coach
400, yeah. You're just
for the
running the 1-2.
yeah, yes,
Yeah,
exactly. So that's when
yeah,
I was focusing on the 1-2, and then I hit the 24.9. And so since focusing on the 4,
yeah,
that's one of the fastest times that I've got.
yeah.
So
So will you I have to unfortunately, I have to wrap it up because
okay.
we have got an appointment,
Don't-
but we're gonna have a part 2 of this for sure.
okay.
Because I know there's more to your, your pieces of the puzzle. So we'll
Right.
definitely do a part 2. But
Okay.
I was going to say I guess the question was, are you going to, so you're going to go for the 400 indoor record next year, and are you going to try to nail that 24 again? And with
Definitely.
that 24, are you
Yeah.
going to focus a
Yeah.
little more on the 200, do you think?
Yeah.
Or if
Especially
there's any, like maybe one period of your year?
yeah.
Which
Yeah.
period
Yeah.
is that?
I do. Well, I want to. Yes, I want to because we can do this and we can do this. I was like, I think I can run multiple 24s this year indoor.
Yeah.
And so
Okay. So
we're
you're
trying.
going to try to peak maybe like February, March for
Yes,
for
definitely. Yeah,
outdoor world.
definitely. To do both of
Okay.
them. Yeah, nationals and worlds in Gainesville in Florida. And then I might call it a semi-short season because I don't know what's going on with outdoor nationals.
Yeah.
And so depending on where the location is for that. If it's a
Yeah.
fun location, then I'll keep going. But if
No, I
not,
totally know what you mean. People were like, "Where have you been?" I'm all like, "Listen, I come from Hawaii, and it's thousands of dollars every time I
yeah,
travel."
just to
And I do have,
travel.
luckily for me, I have sponsors that help me out,
Right.
but I can't
Yeah.
go to every meet. Like, I can't just drive there from the mainland. I have to,
Yeah.
and you're in the same boat. We have families, we have jobs, like we have things that we
Yeah.
need to be present for. We can't just go to every single meet, so we
Yeah.
have to pick and choose. And if it's in a fun location, we're more likely
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
go.
That's
I'm
enticing.
like, don't sign me up for Iowa anymore. Nothing against Iowa. It wasn't
Again,
Iowa. The track
I
is
just said
slow
that
and it's
today.
always hot, the one they pick. And it's like, I'm like, it's just not a good meet. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
going to run a good time there. So,
Yeah. Well, I think you recently, weren't you at Mount Sac for the multis? Was it
um,
at
I
Sac?
was supposed to be, but that's when the fire burned my,
Oh, got it. Yep. Oh, yeah, yeah,
so I
yeah.
didn't go.
Well, but see, so Mount Sac
Yeah.
is beautiful, and that's where it was
And that's
supposed to
usually a
be.
fast track, right?
Yes,
So,
it is. I ran there multiple times and some of my fastest times there, and I love the track, love the stadium, love the location. And then when I found out it wasn't going to be there anymore, I was like, oh, might have a shorter season. So we'll
yeah.
see where the location
Okay.
is. But yes,
Okay,
I
one
plan.
last question and then I gotta go.
Okay.
Can I convince you to do a decathlon with me?
I don't think so.
Okay,
I
not
don't
this
think
year.
anybody wants to
I'm
see
gonna
me.
put a pin in that, maybe not this
I
year.
don't think anybody wants to see me pole vault or try long jumping or throwing anything. Yeah, no.
Well, if you get like me and you get a little bored with the 400,
A little
200 training,
curious.
and
I
you're
did,
looking
I
for
have
something else by the time you're 50, then
what I have been thinking about though, so if I can get this indoor record, and then I have the American for the indoor and outdoor, I might start, and all three of my kids are hurdlers. And so
oh, okay.
they come to my mom and I let them know, I think the record is a 63.9 in the 40s. And I was like,
Okay.
if
For
I
the
can just,
400 hurdles,
yeah. And I'm like, if I'm running a
that is beast mode to
56,
the max.
yeah. And then we're
400
tall.
is beast mode, but 400
Yeah.
hurdles is beast mode to the max.
You know,
Yeah.
so that's a maybe. That's a maybe.
Okay.
So we'll
Well,
see.
I will reciprocate and say maybe I will join you in a 400 hurdles then next year because I actually had a funny dream that my hurdle coach was at a meet and it was nationals and I was supposed to run a heat of the 400 hurdles, which is hilarious because there's never enough entries to have heats. It's always just a final. And he was telling me to just relax. I got it. And I was like, I'm not ready to run 400 hurdles. And he was like, just relax. And it was a hilarious dream because I've never thought about doing the 400 hurdles. And so
I,
that, and it was like last week I had this dream.
you're,
So
you're,
he's like,
you're
I texted him and he was like, I don't know, might be a sign. And then I
right.
only have one
Yeah.
more year of 400 hurdles because then it goes down to 300 hurdles.
Yeah. There you go. That'll be fun. You could do that with you've been learning the hurdles, obviously. And
Yes, I'm
then,
not good at them yet, but it's a learning experience.
yeah, but then,
I think that's a great goal for you.
yeah, and then you have the 400 training. I think you could
That's what
do
he
it.
said. He's like, well, it makes sense.
Yeah, it does. You've got both of them. So
Yeah. Well,
maybe just
I
fun.
might dabble in one and jump in and see what happens. And then
Yeah.
I'm
I'm like,
sure
maybe I have a little
you'll
all
regret it.
comers where I can, enter under a different name and nobody will know.
Yeah, I know, right? Oh, like, don't put my name on the world rankings.
Yeah. Just in case I go down.
Or like I feel like the only 400 I ran this year was like hour 5 of the decathlon on day 1, and I'm all like,
Yeah.
oh, please don't put that in the world ranking, or put an asterisk. Hour
Yeah,
5, 107 degrees,
exactly.
decathlon 400.
After so
No,
many
it's fine. We have to at this. I feel like part of the champion mentality is letting go of ego and just focusing
oh
on
yeah,
our grass and making it green and not worrying about what anyone else thinks or does, just focusing on our path. And
yeah,
I think that's something that would be a great way to end. It's something that everyone can take away
yep.
from it is focus on becoming your own superhero optimal self. And you know what? I'm here to support you and Christina's here to support you too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sounds
Okay. Well, thank you so much for
okay.
joining me today.
Thanks, Leah. Okay.